So I know that this isn't something that I normally do, but when Child Celebrity gave me this game, he also asked that I do a review on it, and so that's what I'm going to do right now. This is my first time ever reviewing a game, so please go easy on me. But without further ado, let's begin. This is Tom Clancy's The Division. Let's go ahead and jump into the settings menu first. When it comes to the settings menu, there wasn't much that I saw that was missing. Honestly, you have more here than a lot of previous Ubisoft titles, and I always appreciate extravagant settings menus. The more options, the better. What I really liked was that when you hover over a setting, you get this little drop-down menu, and it lets you know what that particular setting does, and that's really nice. A lot of times, you'll get into a settings menu and you won't know what something does, and you won't know how it'll affect graphics, and it could just be something easy like anti-aliasing, but it's called something else. And that can be really ridiculous and hard to figure out, so it's really nice that they have that. It's really user-friendly with the mouse. All the menus can be mouse-controlled, and this is always good to see. Some games don't let you do this for some reason, and so it's nice to have that. Now, if there was something that I was going to criticize here, is that there's no setting to change your FOV, and this really sucks. I can't stress how bad this is because you're really close to your character, and as of right now, there's no way to fix that issue. So, I mean, I don't know what they were doing here. This settings menu is great, but there's no FOV. And that's just weird that that's missing. I don't know why there wouldn't be an FOV setting. Now, the graphics settings pretty much set themselves almost perfectly when you boot into the game for the first time. And I didn't even have to change anything. Honestly, it set my settings to Ultra at 4K. That just shows you how stable this game is. And that's on a 980 Ti.
When we get the call,
We leave everything behind.
we are.
The Division.
So I wanted to start a new game real quick, because I wanted to show you guys the character customization. Now, I've always been a fan of character customization in any game, especially multiplayer games, and I generally gauge how good it is by how effectively I can make the character look like me. And I do this in most every game that I have that has customization. I did this in GTA 5, I've done this in Dragon Age, any game that has character customization, I try to do this. And this is so that I can test the amount of detail that they went into when making the customization, and honestly, they did a really poor job here. When I saw the customization here, I realized it's pretty much set, and there wasn't much you could do with their profiles. And that kind of sucks. It kind of made me sad. Now, this wouldn't bother me so much if it was a single-player game, but I chose this young Liam Neeson-looking character, and I tried to make him pretty unique. But I see the same character all the time, and it really does kind of suck, because it made me feel like I didn't do a very good job. And I understand that this is one of the first Ubisoft games that has character customization, at least as far as I know. So, I mean, I'll give them a pass on it, but it's just really disappointing. Anyway, let's move on. So what is The Division? Like, what's the story here? Well, you're in New York City, and the city has become infected with smallpox. The government is looking for a cure, but the Division agents are the last line of defense against any potential threat. The first wave of Division agents apparently turned rogue and are trying to kill off anyone who's infected. And then there are also street crimes that you gotta take care of as well. You're pretty much a government pawn that has the power to kill anyone you want. And it's really scary to think about. I mean, you think of post-apocalyptic themes like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us, and the government's pretty much gone. The people have to fend for themselves, but here, the government has taken full control. And this is a really scary theme, but I have to admire the way they made the story work with the RPG game style. When I got into the game and I saw people running around, I didn't think it was strange, because we're all part of a team, and we all came in different days from what the story says. So when we see a fellow player running around, it's not like an MMO or RPG where the game says, "You're the only hero who can save us." Instead, it says, "This is a team effort," and we will all be doing our part to sustain peace, and I really like that. It doesn't feel weird when I run into another player who's on the same mission, like it is in most RPGs, where I'm supposed to be the only hero, and then here's another player who's the only hero. So I like that. Let's talk about the controls real quick. For the first hour of the game, I played it with keyboard and mouse, and it works great. All of the menus are usable with the mouse, and the game plays fine. But then I wanted to see how it worked with a controller, and I have not been able to go back. It feels really nice, and the gunplay is very, very satisfying, which is weird because of the RPG elements. Normally, I really don't like the RPG elements, because you'd think that an AK-47 would kill someone instantly if you shot them in the head. But in this game, it doesn't. However, the gunplay is so fun that I don't care. The only gripe I have with the controller is that you have this auto-aim that automatically turns on, and I've tried looking for a way to shut it off, but I haven't found a setting for it. Regardless, I really like how it feels control-wise, and you can use both a mouse and keyboard or a controller very easily, so it's up to you, honestly. Now, as far as the game goes, I cannot believe how optimized this game is. Now, it seems like the way the game runs is different for everyone, but for me, on my 980 Ti, this game runs on ultra settings, almost everything turned on, and it never drops below 60 FPS, or at least it almost never does. And I've really tested it too. I've rendered a video, watched Netflix, and played this game at the same time, and the only issue I ever faced was internet-related issues. I almost never got a frame rate drop that I wasn't okay with. And for me, this game never hit 40 FPS. It only drops like 1 to 6 frames at most, and that's while I was rendering a video in the background. I was so impressed because Ubisoft is not the kind of publisher that normally takes that much time with optimization. So, serious props for that. I will say, however, that the game has just crashed on me like 3 different times, and that's never very cool. But what was funny was that when it boots back up, you're literally in the exact place that you left off. I couldn't believe how accurate that was, but the game crashed on me 3 different times, and I rebooted the game 3 different times and ended up exactly where I was before, and that impressed me. Also, load times, very well done. The initial loading screen when you boot the game for the first time in that day is kinda long, but after that, load times are very fast, so I'm okay with that. Now, how's the gameplay? Well, it's a Tom Clancy game, so it has a lot of sneaking mechanics, but I feel like even though they come in handy, they just tease me because it's not a stealth game. It easily could be if the guns acted the way that they're supposed to, but because of it being an RPG, the enemies have health bars, and blood doesn't spray out when you shoot them in the head, crit numbers do. And this is fine, but every time I sneak around enemies trying to strategize, I just feel like something's missing. I can't just take them out quietly one by one, and I love stealth games. Watch Dogs was like that, and Splinter Cell Conviction, one of my favorite games. And it's a Tom Clancy title. And I know that they were going in a different direction with this one, it's just there, and it feels obvious to me, but I can easily look past it. It's just not what they were going for. Now, what was Ubisoft going for? Well, when it comes to the visuals of the game, I gotta say that this game looks great, but Ubisoft has a reputation for making games look better at E3, and then coming out with a significantly worse looking experience, and then they always say something like, oh, we had to adjust things, we had to tweak them to get them working right. Everything at E3 is just a concept, but we saw with the Watch Dogs mod that this actually isn't true. If you don't know about that, Watch Dogs was another Ubisoft title that looked better at E3, and after the game came out, a modder was able to unpack some files that were installed with the game and get most of those E3 textures. The game ran just as well with them, and I played Watch Dogs with the E3 mod. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen with this game, but there is a history of shady behavior when it comes to that, and I believe that it needs to be taken into consideration before you purchase. At this point in the gaming industry, we have to be careful about what we support, because it will affect the future of gaming. Do you support a company who has done shady things like this, or is it too far for you? It's up for anyone to decide, really. But this game looks great. For an open world game, the textures are really precise, and there are only a few textures that I don't like. For instance, the dog. The fur on the dog is very Assassin's Creed. I mean, we have hair effects and other engines that really work with hair, and it's not like I think that they should have taken advantage of that, but the hair on these animals really don't fit the game because the rest of it looks beautiful. Now, I'd like to move on to characters and AI. The AI is really well done. I like it a lot. Even the NPCs that are just in the town are very lifelike and immersive. Like when I run through the city, I feel like I'm running through a city, and that's great. Now the bad guys. The enemies have some really good AI as well. I've seen them jump up onto cars in combat. They really try to hide from you, and yeah, they could be smarter, but the AI is better than I've seen in a lot of recent Ubisoft games, and Ubisoft is not really well known for their AI. So I'm impressed, and I give them props for this. There were a few times where an enemy cried out, "They got Alex!" And the voice acting was great. It actually made me feel like a heartless government killer, but then you realize as you go on that every bad guy seems to be named Alex and you always end up killing him. So, I mean, they only have so many lines for the bad guys, and it kind of ruins the immersion a little bit, but it's not a huge deal. The part that bothers me is that the main character has no voice acting, and I understand because there's so much, well, character customization. At least they had a bunch of generic profiles for whatever ethnic group, or male or female, you wanted to be. I mean, that would have been a lot of voice acting, but most games that let you customize your character don't do the voice acting thing because it could look weird on that character. But it really gets kind of awkward when people are talking to your character and he opens his mouth and nods like he's gonna say something. And I've never had this issue before, but there was actually a time when I started yelling at the screen going, "Answer him, you idiot! Can you not just say yes or no?" It really can get awkward, and you might notice it too. And I mean, if you walk into my room and I'm screaming at the screen, I mean, that can get awkward too, but I don't know, it's just something that kind of bothered me a little bit. This is your main base. You come in here and you're supposed to upgrade the base little by little, and as you do this, you get power-ups that you can use in your missions. For example, I leveled up my medical bay, and I got more advanced med packs for my missions, and I like this. There are little markers on the floor that tell you where the upgrade rooms are, and that's kind of helpful because the place can get really crowded the more you advance it. You also can go to these vendors, and you can sell your old weapons, or buy new ones, and if you pick up a weapon or item in the world, you can choose to deconstruct it and turn it into metal or cloth or something like that. And you can use those materials for other things if you wish to do that. I hate walking in and out of here though. I can run literally anywhere I want, and I actually have to get from mission to mission, which is a great way of making a smaller map feel like a large map, and I can respect that they did that. But one place that I can't run is this 5-meter walkway. I hate that. If you don't buy the game for any reason, it's for this reason. Just kidding, but it gets on my nerves because it feels like it's there for no reason other than just because. So I'm going to open up the map for you guys real quick, show you guys some stuff. Those little green things are your missions, and so are the little blue. Mostly just the bigger spheres, the blue, green, and yellow ones. Those are your main missions, and it's nice because you can go do those alone, or you can do those with other agents around the world. And I normally go at it alone, and this is where the game can make you feel weak, but also very powerful. See, I die a lot. I go into missions alone, and I have yet to go into a mission and not die. But it's great because normally the missions have you fighting higher level enemies, and when you finally do beat it, you feel powerful. And then the enemies in the world that are the same level as you are like a breeze now. You almost feel like you can take on anything up until you go into the next level. Also, as you go, you find drops from enemies. Gray drops are items that aren't as good, and green are better than yours. And then there are other colors like blue, and I haven't gotten anything better than that, so I don't know if there's anything more. I just take everything so I can sell it, but it's a good setup. In all, this game is very well set up, very well made, and I find myself getting addicted. I'm normally not an RPG guy, but I can sit here for hours playing this game, and any game that can do that to me is fine by me. This has been The Division. This game is published by Ubisoft and runs for $59.99 or your regional equivalent. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I might do more reviews. And a huge thank you to Child Celebrity once again for giving this game to me and asking me to do a review. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have reviewed it. So, thank you. Bye, guys.